meaning and acceptance of one another and support in our spiritual journeys. So y'all showing up and hearing me is support of my spiritual journey. So thank you for doing that. There are a couple of kind of rabbit trails that I want to go down and then hopefully bring them back together in the talk. In the story we just heard about Mrs. Crump seemed to have two minds, didn't she? She was listening to two voices. Part of her was really attracted to the cat. But then she'd step back and think about all the problems that it might bring. She was in love with this beautiful animal, but she was fearful of what might come with it. Somebody else who was kind of like that. How many of you remember the comedian Flip Wilson? Okay, one of my favorite skits that he did was a monologue where he would have the little mini me flip on each shoulder. You remember? On one side there would be a little mini flip, the same guy, but he would be dressed in angelic clothing with a halo and wings. And on the other side, the character was dressed in a red devil suit with a pitchfork and horns. And so when he would be going through decision making, he would be listening to one or the other voice. And anytime he made an unwise choice, y'all remember the tagline? If he made an unwise choice and got into trouble, Al knows it, the devil made me do it. Welcome, Kathy and Larry. We're talking about Flip Wilson. I know y'all remember Flip Wilson. Okay, so the story this morning was a lady who was adopting a cat, but of two minds about it. And so we're talking about Flip Wilson. Listen to this voice, the good voice, and listen to this voice, the fearful voice sometimes. And anytime he got in trouble, it was the devil who made him do it. Another rabbit trail I want to share with you was one of my now ancestors, my last surviving sibling of my parents, was my Uncle Jerry. And 40, almost 50 years ago, he told me about having done transcendental meditation. It was something brand new, and I didn't know anything about it. But he shared, he went off and learned it, and he practiced for a while. He didn't keep it up the rest of his life. But what he shared with me was that while he was doing it, he really felt like it made him more empathetic. He felt like he knew better what other people were thinking and feeling. It kind of made him more intuitive and more tuned in. So that was the first I remember really hearing about meditation. And I've been practicing meditation myself now for probably 30 plus years. As many of us who practice meditation might would tell you, one of the benefits of meditation is that it's a way to just calm oneself, just sitting still. And when you can do that, oftentimes the monkey mind just kind of settles down. And it does help you to hear those still inner voices, whether you call it your conscience or whether you call it inner guidance, a voice from God. I mean, we have different attributes, but oftentimes meditation is a path that helps us get to where we're more in tune with our deeper self and our higher values, or it has been that way for me. Another person whose work I enjoyed reading, who has now crossed over, talked about the result of meditation for him. When he got still and quiet, he could get to a kind of a transcendent place where all he was experiencing was a compassionate presence. Those were his words for it. And he hypothesized it was probably what some people call God. I remember reading that Albert Einstein said that one of the most important questions one can ask oneself is whether you believe the universe to be friendly. So whether your basic orientation is expecting good things or bad things. And most people would say, well, I'm a realist. You know, I'm seeing what's there. My Course in Miracles teaches me that I see things as I would have them be. You know, your own expectations are figuring into what you're seeing, whether you're conscious of it or not. Meditation has been a tool for many to get in touch with those quieter things, to get the mental chatter out of the way and settle down to what's more important. Before I go more into A Course in Miracles, which is my chief spiritual discipline, I want to share with you a little visual aid. It's a celebration of imagination and perception It's also in honor of some of my meditation friends, especially the 4 wise guys. Mortimer, would you help me move it over? Move close to the camera. The folks at home. How's that, Tanya? Thank you. So the way the story is told, once upon a time, many, many years ago, in an elementary classroom, the teacher was bragging on the children because they've done such a good job of listening and absorbing facts and information all week. So she said, today we're going to do something fun, and we're going to let you use your brains in a different way. I'm going to draw something up here on the board, and then I'm going to invite you to add to it. So she started out with a rectangle. Okay, so this is a plain rectangle, an empty box. Who can think of something to add to it to make it into something completely different? Well, young Bill was in class that day, and he was kind of an analytical person who liked rational thinking, so he raised his hand. Bill came down, took the marker, and drew straight lines across it. You can come closer if you're not able to see. Feel free to move down close, because you get more out of it if you can see. So you've got lines across it, Bill. What is that? I've made an empty box into a window with window blinds. So you have. Gold star, Bill. Thank you. Can anyone think of anything else to add today to make it into something completely different? Well, John, even as a child, was somewhat mellow and loved music. He raised his hand. John came down and added. What is that, John? A music stand. Gold star, John. Good job. Okay, we're getting more complicated now. Can anyone else here think of something else to add to make it something completely new? Tom L. was in the classroom and raised his hand. Tom was a thinker who thought out of the box. He came down, took the marker, and had a bright idea. Whoops, my marker's not there. Wow, tell us what that is. It's a light bulb. Wonderful. Good job, Tom. Gold star for you. Okay, that may be as far as we can go. But then the teacher saw Tom. Tom B was in the back of the room and he was tilting his head this way and tilting his head that way. Do you have an idea, Tom? Yes, ma'am. Tom came to the front of the classroom. He took the marker. Blinds, we see the music stand, we see the light bulb, and then Tom B added Tom, you've added something, but I can't say that I see what you're going for there. And Tom said, well, you have to turn it over. But when you turn it over, it looks a lot like the scene at my house on Sunday mornings when we're getting dressed for church. And my mom is trying to get in her girdle. You think Tom got a gold star? So that's an exercise in creativity, imagination, and being able to change your perspective. More specifically, on the Course in Miracles. I'll tell you a little bit about, some of you are familiar with Course in Miracles. I know at least one of you is a student of Course in Miracles. But the Course in Miracles, this is my book. had 30+ years, and it's all in one binder. But the Course in Miracles is a series of 3 books. Depending on which edition, which typeset and all they use, is between 1,100 pages and 1,300 pages long. It was published the first time, even before it was published, it was a photocopy and passed around. But then it was published in 1976. It kind of took off in 1979 when Gerald Jampolsky, who was a medical doctor, became aware of it, became a student, felt like it changed his life. He wrote a book kind of simplifying it as an introduction to Course in Miracles. His book was called Love is Letting Go of Fear. He went on Johnny Carson and talked about his book and about Course in Miracles. And sales went up. That was another big moment with spreading Course in Miracles. Years later, Marianne Williamson, many of you are familiar with Marianne Williamson, who is a well-known student and now teacher of the course, and she's written several books. She went on Oprah and talked about Course in Miracles, so that helped to spread the word. So it's well-known now around the world. It's been reprinted in many languages. It's been called everything from satanic seduction to a New Age Bible. The description of it I like calls it a reinterpretation of Christianity. Because I grew up Christian, and there was so much there that was good, but as I got older and grew and my mind expanded and studied other things, I couldn't stay comfortable in Christianity because of the exclusivity of it, because of the, it felt like I was just supposed to make myself accept what the Bible, God told me. That I had to submit myself to that. And there were a couple of things that I just didn't stay comfortable in. So that I found Unitarian Universalism some 30 years ago now. But the reinterpretation of Christianity makes me reclaim all that was good in my upbringing with a different understanding of it. I'll read you the intro paragraph, but then I'll warn you, it gets into some metaphysics that I get bogged down in. That part, I just can't stay too long with, but I want to read it for you. The introduction to the book says, this is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, but that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course, therefore, can be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. As I said, when I get into the metaphysics of it, it's easy to get bogged down. But my own history with the Course in Miracles, I encountered it in 1992 on a travel trip. I was up in New Jersey and went in a New Age bookshop and found the book. And it was very unlike me to spend $25 on it. I've always been thrifty, and even more so in my younger days. But I was drawn to it, and I bought it, and I started reading it. Now, the course is divided into 3 books. The first is the text, which is a long, complicated, sometimes beautiful parts of it are written in iambic pentameter, and some of it is just as beautiful as some of the best parts of the Bible. But it's also kind of an explanation of reality and illusion and a lot of things that get beyond my ability to comprehend at this point. But that's the first part, the text. The second part is the workbook, which is 365 lessons, and it's set up so that one could begin on January the 1st and do a lesson a day. The course tells us that anyone who wants to undertake it doesn't have to go in believing anything in particular. If you're willing to give it a try, if you're willing to just read the exercise each day and practice it, see what happens for you. Just like our meditation teacher Laura was talking about last Friday, that Buddhism, Zen Buddhism that she practices is that way. It's like claim it, make it your own. You don't have to do it, kill the Buddha if you meet him on the road. You don't have to accept handed down wisdom, come to it yourself. Course in Miracles is like that. Practice it, see if this resonates with you, and it does with me. So the text, the workbook, and then the manual for teachers. And I've read all through it, read all of it a couple of times. The very first time, I did not do one exercise a day like she recommended. I sat down and just was so caught up in it. I read through the whole 1,200 pages in a week. I was trying to explain to my husband what I was reading, and his response was, Shari, please don't flip out on me. Please stay here in this world with me. But I keep going back to Course in Miracles through the years. And the basic teaching that we're always coming from love or from fear has been so instructive for me and so helpful for me. I understand now, okay, so this disclaimer to begin with. I'm not here to make anybody into a student of Course in Miracles. I'm here to share with you kind of what my journey with it has been, and happy to answer questions. But I'm not a proponent. I don't sell the book. I'm not trying to persuade anybody else. So through the years, I keep going back to it. That basic principle of remembering, catching myself anytime I'm in judgment, anytime I'm angry, anytime I'm defensive, anytime I'm anything but at peace and channeling love. There's something I'm fearing. There's something going on. And instead of trying to figure it out, I can choose again. Let go of fear and choose love. Move back to love over and over and over. Many times a day. Sometimes many times an hour. But it's a good practice for me. It helps get me in the space I'd rather occupy. The last 2.5 years, I have been more serious, gone back to Course in Miracles as my primary spiritual practice. 2 years ago, I started on January the 1st and did one lesson a day. I went through the workbook. And then a year ago, I began with a small group of friends, and we each committed to reading the lessons each day, practicing. And we come together on Zoom 1 day a week and kind of compare our experiences. So that's been wonderful. Because sometimes I'm learning from them, getting insights I missed, but also the accountability. Somebody else is doing this too, and so we're accountable to one another. So I've been for the last, we started January 1st, 2021. So now we're more than halfway through the workbook for the second time, sharing together, doing the daily exercises and once a week coming together. The basic choice, basic duality coming from love or fear is the simplest part, the most attractive part, the most helpful part. But there's an awful lot more to it. Course in Miracles says, I see things as I would have them be. All the bad stuff I see out there, I'm projecting. I can change my perspective and see it differently. Just like we change perspectives on the board, look at it differently, you can see more there, step back. Forgiveness is a big part of Course in Miracles, and forgiveness is not about forgiving people for wrong they've done to us. It's realizing I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough about anybody else's, where they are, where they're coming from, why they do what they do, to be in judgment over them. So I need to forgive myself for making those judgments and come back to peace. And what's not my business, not worry about it. I want to tell you several things, some of my favorite quotes from Course in Miracles, but we're not quite out of time. So I'll share one other thing about perspective and perception. Y'all may have read 2 years ago, I read about a research project, and I can't cite anything for you on it, but it said that generally men and women perceive themselves differently. So they did this experiment, and best I remember, they were like photographs, same size, same proximity. Showed a woman lots of pictures of women, and herself was included in the pictures, and they asked them to rate them. Place them in order by order of attractiveness, or youth, or size, or various factors. So the women rated themselves and lots of other people. Did the same thing with the men. What they found out in this study was that generally women rated themselves lower than other people looking at their picture rated them. They saw themselves as older, less attractive, heavier, they saw themselves through a lens that wasn't as kind. Men, on the other hand, you guys are laughing, men, on the other hand, on average, tended to rate themselves higher than other people who didn't know them rated them. They saw themselves as more attractive, younger, better look, So the point of bringing that in now is the other thing that other people have found following that research is it actually serves men to be more self-confident, even if it's delusional sometimes, because when you expect good things, when you're in a good space about yourself, better things come. So it matters what we believe. Just like we were reading about beliefs about things that are going to close us in and shut us down or divide us from other people, beliefs about ourselves and whether we are worthy and have gifts to share or whether we are an embarrassment, and shouldn't even be here sometimes. It matters what we believe. That's a lot of rabbit holes and a lot of different threads. If you're able to stay for the discussion afterwards, I'm going to talk about it separately afterwards. I'm glad to answer questions or follow up or hear reactions. But for now, I will read several of my favorite quotes from Course in Miracles when I find that card. So I told you, I see things as I would have them be. Spirits are we, holy children of God, forever safe and healed and whole, free to forgive, free to save the world. The peace of God is my one goal, the aim of all my living here. The end I seek, my purpose, my function, and my life, while I abide where I am not at home. God's blessing shines on me from within my heart where he abides. I need but turn to him and all sorrows melt away as I accept his boundless love for me. I bless the world as I bless myself. And to conclude this part of the program, I will read for you today's lesson. We're in a review section. Every, once a month maybe, we come to a session where we have an overarching theme and a little short lesson that's a review of a previous lesson. And right now we're in the midst of a 20-day review of the basic tenet, I am not this body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. That's the overarching theme for the 20 days. And the lesson yesterday was, I am the holy child of God. And today's lesson is, the review is, I have a function God would have me fill. I seek the function that would set me free from all the vain illusions of the world. Only the function God has given me can offer freedom. Only this I seek, and only this will I accept as mine. I'm not a body, I'm free, for I am still as God created me. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to